Well, hello, my beautiful crafty friends. It's Asia Marquet here, Lemon Creation, with a new art journal page. And I'm gonna be talking a little bit about how to create a coherent page. So stay tuned. Let me start by saying that I love creating pages with negative space. So basically, it's a page which is not completely fully covered with paints and with other embellishments. This is the way I like to work, and this is the art I'm finding myself the best in. I'm gonna be using for this page two of PaperArtsy chalk acrylics, and I decided to mix the two of them to create a little bit of more plum color. I don't know, actually there is a color which I am looking for and I cannot find it. And I remember when I was small, we had the orchard and there was the plums, and they were kind of like a dark violet, dark purple. I have no idea. This is the color I'm trying to create and I cannot find it anywhere for me to buy it, and I cannot manage really to create it the way I would like, but it's close to the one I've made today. And this is a little bit of a sponge which comes from, I think, some kind of a jewelry box, or I'm not sure. It's just I'm keeping things like that to use later on for projects like this one. And so I like to experiment with how I put the paints on my pages. I use either a piece of acetate or just a brush or a spray or wherever I can find. This week, I don't know if you've seen my latest short, I work with a sponge and I love the effect because it's completely different than, for example, a brush. You have this kind of like a cloudy-like effect, which is really nice. And one of my secrets for creating a negative negative space page, is to organize myself, decide at which point of the page, in which part of the page I am gonna put the colors. And I just get stuck to it. I kind of think that I'm gonna be using maybe 1/4 of the page to put the paint on it. And that's what I'm trying to do. Usually I'll do it to the side a little bit, because this is apparently the best way to actually kind of fit it a little bit to the side, but sometimes I do it in the middle. This one is kind of in the middle. And also, if I don't do the circle kind of layout, if I know that I'm not gonna be using circles, for example, my way of application of the paint will be a little bit, how can I say, it's gonna be a little bit long in a way that, you know, it will start at the bottom of the page and it will go almost to the top. So as you can see here, and for this page I wanted to use a little bit of geometrical stamps, and for once I usually use a lot of black on my pages. I decided to use Distress Oxide, I think it's Villainous Violet, and for stamping. And so as you can see, those are my stamps. You're gonna find a link to my shop in the description box below, but I work with those stamps already a few times and I prepare maskings. So I use it once when I was doing some masking, and I kept the small pieces in the back with my stamps, so like that every time when I want to use masking, like right now, as you can see, I can use these pieces. I don't throw them away, and it just works much better. But there is another secret to creating a page like that. Look at this page, guys. It's a little bit, well, confusing, not really visible. The stamps are not visible, and it's kind of boring, isn't it? It's just all in the same tone. It's nice to make monochromatic page, why not? But I find that very often if we are not happy with the page, it's because we are lacking a little bit of additions of black or white. And so that's what happened here in the page. And also another secret of mine is that when I do the pages, I try to keep, once again, if it's not a page about circles, which I would do a kind of in a circular kind of way, but if it's not about circles, I try to keep the page, the build of the focal points in lines. Like, I'm not sure how to explain you better, but when I was stamping with the Distress Oxide, I was actually kind of stamping, I made kind of one horizontal line and one vertical line in the middle of the paint. And that's what I did right now, adding the a little bit of black accents, black stamping. I also kept this stamping beside those lines which I created before with the Distress Oxide and my first stamp set. I hope this is understandable for you guys, because if you start stamping all over the page, at the end you're gonna get a mess. It's not even gonna be grunge, it's gonna be really a mess, and you're not gonna be happy with the page. So just make yourself kind of like a, I don't know, blueprint or wherever it is, like, you know, the lines, one line vertical or one line horizontal, or two lines which are kind of like crossing each other, whichever works for you, but stay with this whole idea. Don't put stamps all over the page. You know, you can always put a little bit in one corner, like the stamps which are kind of half, you know, half stamped in the corner. That could be really nice, but otherwise just stick to this blob of paint and to these lines you created, even if those are the lines which you created in your head. And as you've seen, I used the third stamp here, which was just before this one, which I'm doing right now. I kind of cannot go fast enough with my explanations. But when I was using the third set of stamp, just this kind of black lines, I actually accentuate the lines I made earlier. And for the focal point, I use a stamp. This is stamp from a Variation Creative. It's a French brand, French shop. And I stamped it because the stamp is very intricate on the sides. You know, as you can see right now when I'm cutting, there are some dots, some small lines. These are the elements I cannot really cut out, you know, and put it on the page. So that's why I stamped the first image on the page, and these small tiny elements will be there. And on top of that, I'll add the element which I am now fuzzy cutting. And I do that just because, you know, it's gonna be the contrast is gonna be more striking. And as you're gonna see in a second, look at the page with this image and with this image. It's the same image, but with the stamped image and with the image I cut out of the paper. This is also one of the secrets. If you don't like the stamped image, stamp it on the piece of paper, even brighter paper than your background paper, because that's the case here, and cut it out and then put it on the paper. First of all, you're gonna get the image which is raised from the paper, so it's gonna add extra texture, extra extra layer to the page. But it also probably will look nicer because, you know, it's just when you stamp on the separate piece of paper, you actually can stamp a few times to get a proper image, you know, and it's gonna really look better. So if you are stuck, if you think that the page is kind of, you know, the focal element doesn't pop up straight away from the page, try to do this. And I hardly ever use actually stamped sentences to finish my journal, but for this one I wanted, but that's why, because I'm using the stamp for the first time, I use it on the piece of scrap paper before. I wanted to see if the stamping is good, if I'm gonna get a good result, because if I stamp right now the small sentence there and it doesn't work well, the whole page is basically to throw out. It's not really true. I can always cut some, you know, some phrase from the book, you know, and just put it there, glue on in the place of the stamped sentence, in this case Lisbone. But it's just, you know, just be sure that your stamp is stamping perfectly if you want to use it as a focal point of your page. So these are my secrets. I hope they're gonna help you a little bit. Start like that. If you really want to create a negative space page, try maybe making two lines, one horizontal, one vertical. Try to cross them at some point. add around it a little bit of paint, add around it a little bit of stamping or stenciling. Don't go too far. Try to keep in these lines, make kind of like a figure, you know, like a triangle on the top, triangle on the middle, stay for example like that. Add a focal point which is maybe a little bit to the side, the sentence which goes a little bit to the side, and be aware that if you are not happy so much with your page, maybe you are missing a little bit of white, maybe you're missing a little bit of splatter, maybe you're missing a little bit of black. Contrast is very important, but most important is that you are doing what you love to do. If you don't like creating with white space, if you don't feel confident, don't create. I mean, everybody has their own soft spot. For me, those are the pages I love to do. I hate doing pages when I have to cover everything in color. So find what you like to do and do it. And I hope that helps you a little bit in your creative journey. And I hope I'm gonna see you in my next video. Meanwhile, please subscribe if you haven't done so, click the notification button, and obviously check my shop and my new stencils and stamps. I'm sending you big hugs and big kisses. Bye bye!